Killer babies. Newlyweds, Dan and Rachel Ripley, couldn't wait to start a family. They tried, but Rachel grew frustrated as the months passed. Wanting to make his wife happy, Dan tried something new. While not religious, he got down on his knees and prayed. The Ripleys went to bed that night as they did most nights, disappointed. As they slept, an evil wind blew through the open window and entered Dan. Waking from a deep sleep, an uncontrollable passion overtook him, grabbing his wife and having his way with her. Unexpected but not unwelcomed, Rachel quickly gave in. Just before passing out from extreme exhaustion, they both had the same thought. This was it. 9 months later, the Ripleys brought home a beautiful baby girl named Sarah. Sarah grew up in a nice home with wonderful, loving parents. As her 6th birthday approached, she wanted a Silly Sally doll. Sarah talked about this doll for months. The Silly Sally doll could talk, crawl, and dirty its own diaper. I can be a mommy too, Sarah told Rachel. Oh, sweetie, there's only one mommy in this house, but we'll see when your birthday comes. Sarah remembered the conversation very well. Rachel remembered a different conversation. The doctor had explained that after giving birth to Sarah, Rachel began to bleed out. They had to act quickly to save her. The result was that the Ripleys would never be able to have any more children. As friends and family gathered to celebrate Sarah's birthday, Dan and Rachel's excitement was hard to contain. A house full of people watched as Sarah opened gift after gift until there was none left. Sarah's disappointment was well hidden as she thanked everyone for their gift, but none was what she wanted. Is that all? Dan asked. Rachel smiled. I think there might be one more around here somewhere. Dan walked back to the bedroom and reappeared a couple minutes later with a large wrapped package. Sarah's eyes grew big when she saw her dad carrying something that was the right size to be a Silly Sally doll. As Dan went to hand off the last gift, Sarah was all too quick to relieve her father of it. Tearing into the last barrier between her and her most coveted prize of the day, Sarah let out a scream as she hoisted her Silly Sally doll up like it was the Stanley Cup. The days passed. Sarah and her new best friend were inseparable. Rachel began feeling jealous of the doll. She tried getting Sarah to do things with her without Sally, but Sarah wouldn't have it. One night at dinner, Sarah came to the table, Sally in tow. Rachel, fed up, slammed the plates on the table. Take that doll back to your bedroom, Rachel demanded. Sarah pleading with her mother, but Sally's hungry too. Sarah, I'm done with this conversation. I'm your mother, and I said take it to your room. Sarah clutched Sally tightly, turned and ran to her room, slamming the door behind her. Rachel turned to Dan. You know, a little help would be nice. Dan shrugged. You seem to be doing just fine on your own. Forget it. I'm going to bed. Clean up when you're done, Rachel said as she stormed out of the room. Later that night, while Dan and Rachel slept, Sarah sat on the edge of her bed looking at Sally, still fuming from earlier. Walking down the hall to her parents' room, she sat Sally down on the floor just outside their door. Sarah hands Sally her bottle and whispers, Now don't dilly-dally, silly Sally. Sarah opened the door and watched as Sally crawled into Dan and Rachel's room, across the floor, and onto their bed. Taking off her diaper and taping it over Rachel's mouth and nose. Rachel's eyes open. She tries to move, but a familiar evil wind coming through the open window holds her down. Sally sits down on Rachel's face and begins to pee. Feeling the bed getting wet, Dan wakes up. Touching the wet spot to make sure he's not dreaming, Dan turns to see his wife. What the fuck? Dan yelled. Sally, seeing Dan awake, shoves her bottle down his throat. Gasping for air, Dan eventually falls to the floor dead. Rachel still struggling to get free, Sally begins to bounce up and down on her face until Rachel's body goes limp. The Ripley's house was silent except for the childish giggling of Sarah, who watched the whole thing. 2 days had passed when the cops arrived for a wellness check. Knocking on the door, Sarah answered. Hi, sweetie, can we talk to your mommy or daddy? One of the officers asked. Mommy and daddy are sleeping, Sarah replied. Okay, sweetie, we're going to come in and check on them, the other officer said. They entered the house, finding Dan and Rachel dead. In a matter of minutes, the house was crawling with cops. Sarah was being held in her bedroom. A female officer was assigned to watch over her. Miss Vicky, a social worker, arrived and was shown to Sarah's room. Hello, you must be Sarah, Vicky said as she entered the room. Sarah flashed a bashful look. We're going to take you somewhere very special, Vicky told her. Holding the doll in front of her, can I bring Sally with me, Sarah asked. Absolutely, Vicky said. She took Sarah by the hand and led her out to the car. Opening the back door, she helped Sarah in and fastened her seatbelt. Just before shutting the door, Vicky leaned down and asked, Sarah, do you understand what is going on? Sarah nods her head. Vicky asked again, do you understand what happened? Sarah looked down as she played with the edge of Sally's dress. Mommy and Daddy are dead. Surprised by the response, Vicky asked one more question. Do you know what that means? Sarah looks Vicky in the eyes and nods her head. Vicky pressed. What does it mean, Sarah? A smile slowly stretched across Sarah's face. I'm the mommy now.